You're not welcome here. Oh, my daughter's fiancé shouted, ordering the security guards to escort me out of the wedding. This event is reserved for distinguished guests only, he sneered, glancing disdainfully at my simple attire. But when his father spotted me and cried out, "Ross Vernon, is that truly you?" The groom's entire universe trembled. He had no clue about my real identity. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and share in the comments where you're tuning in from. My old pickup truck resembled a rusty relic parked amid the Mercedes and BMWs in their sweeping driveway. The Whitaker estate loomed ahead like a scene from a Hollywood film. Marble stairs, polished brass accents shining under the afternoon sun, hedges sculpted with flawless precision. I glanced at my watch, precisely 3 p.m., right on time as Sarah had requested. The grand entrance swung open before I could even touch the doorbell. A tall man in upscale casual wear eyed me from head to toe with clear contempt. His gaze traveled from my scuffed work boots to my finest suit, the navy one I'd purchased for Sarah's college commencement 2 decades earlier. "You must have the wrong place. Sir, this isn't a shelter for the down and out. Check the block over." The remark struck me like a sharp blow. I froze on their immaculate porch, my lips parting and closing in stunned silence. A flush of heat rose to my cheeks as I struggled to absorb his cruelty. "Dad, you finally arrived." Sarah's voice cut through from behind him, vibrant and affectionate. She stepped into view in the doorway, clad in a graceful gown likely worth more than my quarterly retirement check. Her features brightened with pure delight as she brushed past the man, Ethan, her fiancé, and enveloped me in a warm embrace. "Come inside. Come inside. I've been peering out the window for you." She clasped my arm and drew me forward, unaware of the exchange that had just transpired. "Ethan, this is my father, Ross Vernon. Dad, this is Ethan Whitaker, my amazing fiancé." Ethan's face transformed in an instant, like a performer switching roles. The scowl softened into a strained grin that failed to touch his eyes. He offered his hand with the hesitation one might reserve for something unclean. "Mr. Vernon, naturally, Sarah has spoken of you." His grip was fleeting, aloof. "Please, step inside." Sarah glowed between us, clutching my arm more firmly. "Isn't this ideal, my two favorite gentlemen meeting at last?" I nodded faintly, choking back the sourness in my throat. The entrance hall unfolded like a grand basilica. A sparkling crystal chandelier scattered rainbows across the marble tiles, oil portraits in gilded frames adorning the walls. My image gazed back from the glossy surfaces, seeming diminished and misplaced. "Your residence is truly striking," I managed, pushing the words past my lips. Ethan squared his shoulders, his assurance resurfacing. "Thank you. It's been in our family for 4 generations. We value upholding specific traditions." The stress on traditions was unmistakable to me. Sarah, radiant with enthusiasm, overlooked it completely. "Just wait until you see the dining hall. Dad, we're serving your beloved pot roast with creamy mashed potatoes. Well, our private chef's rendition of it." She chuckled, threading her arm through mine. "I mentioned to him how you cherish hearty, straightforward meals." Ethan's jaw clenched subtly. "Yes, we've tailored the menu for this occasion. Come along, both of you." Sarah led us through a vaulted archway. "I can't wait to give Dad a tour before the meal." As we ventured further into their opulent home, I noticed Ethan observing me in every reflective surface we passed. His stare chilled me like icy droplets trickling down my back, probing and frigid. Sarah prattled on joyfully about ceremony details and lineage tales, her words reverberating off the lofty ceilings. "The dining hall accommodates 28, but we'll gather intimately at the smaller table today," she described, guiding us into a space vast enough to swallow my whole apartment. Ethan's parents are away on business, so it's only the three of us. The compact table was polished walnut, encircled by seats that evoked museum artifacts. Table settings gleamed beneath yet another chandelier, an array of utensils, fine glassware, linen napkins artfully folded into neat shapes. I'd savored my morning meal from a disposable plate while leaning against my kitchen counter. Sarah drew out a seat for me. "Take this one. Dad, you'll enjoy the finest perspective of Ethan's grandmother's porcelain display." Ethan assumed his spot at the table's head, his stance exuding possession. Each gesture seemed deliberate, intended to underscore whose domain this was. The seat under me resembled a seat of power I had no claim to. "So, Mr. Vernon," Ethan commenced, his tone sleek as aged bourbon. "Sarah says you're freshly retired. That must demand quite the shift. It brings its share of adjustments." I kept my reply concise. Detecting an ambush, Sarah eased into her chair with a contented breath. "Dad labored at the same plant for 40 years. Can you fathom such commitment?" "Ethan, absolutely." Ethan's grin sharpened. "Devotion counts for much. Doesn't it, recognizing one's role, grasping where one fits?" The attendant arrived bearing the opening course, a delicate broth in bowls so fragile I hesitated to grasp them. Sarah plunged into talk of floral arrangements and guest placements, while Ethan and I orbited one another like cautious predators. And for the gathering, Sarah pressed on. I envisioned something lively yet laid back. Dad always insists the finest gatherings let folks relax as their true selves. "How quaint," Ethan muttered, his demeanor far from endearing, though I suspect our invitees may hold varied notions of ease. Sarah granted me a walkthrough of the primary level as Ethan slipped away to oversee meal prep. The residence resembled an exhibit hall more than a dwelling, all immaculate, undisturbed, chilly. She displayed the study lined with leather volumes that appeared untouched by hands, the lounge with furnishings too pristine for actual use. Ethan's grandfather founded the finance company. Sarah elaborated, tracing a marble hearth with her fingertips. The lineage has forged an impressive heritage here in New York. I inclined my head, reflecting on my own heritage, a compact one-bedroom in Bronxville and a pickup needing fresh tires. Upon our return to the dining hall, Ethan was already positioned, scrolling his device. The surface had evolved into a display of successive dishes arrayed like a tactical lineup. I noted 5 varied utensils by my setting, pondering which to employ initially. "I trust you're famished, Mr. Vernon," Ethan remarked, placing his device down with measured intent. "Our chef crafted something approachable." Sarah clapped delightedly. "Oh, this appears marvelous. Dad, you'll adore it." The pot roast scarcely resembled my home versions. It was elegantly plated, with produce shaped meticulously, adorned with a glaze bearing an Italian flair. Sarah helped herself eagerly, while Ethan observed my handling of the cutlery with thinly veiled mirth. "So, regarding the ceremony funds," Ethan stated, slicing his portion with exacting care, "I presume you'll wish to offer towards Sarah's memorable day." The utensil quivered faintly in my grasp. "Sarah and I have settled on what I can provide. Naturally. Ethan's tone oozed false empathy. "I suppose retirement poses monetary hurdles, steady pay and such." Sarah lifted her gaze from her dish. "Ethan, Dad has been remarkably supportive. He's contributing his nest egg for our getaway." How endearing. Ethan lifted his goblet in a feigned salute. Every contribution aids. Right warmth crept up my neck. I concentrated on portioning my meal, endeavoring to disregard the disdain seeping from his every syllable. "I was considering the venue for the festivity," Sarah went on, blind to the strain sparking between us. "Something refined yet inviting. Dad always notes the top celebrations unite folks warmly." "Precisely," Ethan concurred, "though we'll require care with the attendees. Certain associates of mine are selective about their associates." I placed my utensil down. "What precisely are you implying?" "Nothing whatsoever. Ethan's grin widened. Merely that varied social spheres harbor distinct anticipations. I'm confident you grasp how your plant colleagues might feel uneasy amid financiers and officials. Ethan, Sarah tittered uneasily. Dad's companions are splendid individuals. I'm positive they are, my dear, each in their manner. Ethan's stare fixed on mine. I simply desire all to feel fitting. The term lingered like a gauntlet tossed. I clenched my blade firmer, envisioning the relief of erasing that haughty look from his countenance. Dad shares captivating tales from his service years, Sarah interjected swiftly, detecting the mounting friction. Share with Ethan about Korea, Dad. I'm certain Mr. Vernon's service era differed markedly from today's. Ethan cut in fluidly. Distinct period, distinct levels of duty. That sealed it. I sat straighter in my seat. 40 years of physical toil showed in my sturdy frame. In what manner Ethan's grin flickered briefly. Oh, I merely suggested contemporary service demands a measure of polish. Ethan pursues military chronicles recreationally, Sarah added supportively. He grasps maneuvers and maneuvers deeply. How intriguing, I stated, my tone evenly controlled. And where did you enlist, truth be told? I didn't serve, but I've delved extensively into the topic. Ethan's poise dipped for an instant. Scholarly pursuit yields a wider lens than personal encounters. The quiet dragged awkwardly. Sarah glanced between us with rising worry, at last perceiving the discord. Perhaps we ought to discuss elsewhere, she proposed brightly. The climate's been splendid, hasn't it? Quite so, Ethan regained swiftly. Ideal conditions for garden ceremonies. Though that hinges on one's view of ideal, he resembled a serpent, weaving through each subject, devising means to diminish me. Sarah persisted in guiding the dialogue to neutral terrain, but Ethan repeatedly veered to veiled barbs on finances, status, and societal rank. By dessert's arrival, an intricate confection demanding its dedicated implement, I teetered on eruption. Sarah discoursed on blooms and melodies while Ethan issued indirect remarks on proper ceremony garb and apt locales for those of humble origins. Well, Sarah concluded at last, checking her timepiece. I must prepare for supper with the ladies this evening. Dad, thank you immensely for joining us. Wasn't this delightful? I mustered a grin for her benefit. Delightful. Ethan rose initially, proffering his hand with prior reluctance. It's proven enlightening. Mr. Vernon, I'm certain we'll cross paths more as the ceremony nears. Sarah accompanied me to the exit, babbling about the upcoming pastry trial and bloom setups. She hugged me closely, her joy emanating like sunlight. I'm thrilled you two have connected, she murmured. I knew you'd bond. I pressed my lips to her brow, sensing deceit and noble aims. Drive safely this evening, darling. The portal shut behind me with a gentle thump echoing like a sealed chamber. I approached my truck leisurely, sensing Ethan's gaze searing my rear from some vantage within. 25 minutes into the homeward journey, mired in Saturday congestion on FDR Drive, my phone chimed. The screen displayed Sarah's identifier, yet the responding voice was not hers. Mr. Vernon, this is Ethan. Sarah stepped away briefly, and I deemed this ideal for a candid exchange between us. I tightened my hold on the wheel, easing into the sluggish lane as vehicles clustered near Central Park. What do you seek? Ethan, I aim to assist you. In truth, his inflection bore that familiar slick polish from the meal. I've reflected on our dialogue today, realizing we may have started poorly. Is that your term for it? Look, I comprehend this circumstance challenges you, Sarah's entering a realm unlike your familiar one. No disgrace in that. We each hold our societal niche. A cab veered before me. Horn wailing, I released it, honing on Ethan's phrases, probing his intent. At the ceremony, prominent figures will attend. Backers, officials, members of New York's elite circle. These are persons who influence our domain. Cut to it. The essence, Mr. Vernon, lies in facades. I cannot permit Sarah's father to appear as if he's strayed from a relief center. The statement impacted like a tangible strike. I veered faintly, drawing a furious blast from the adjacent vehicle. Pardon, I'm extending aid. Your attire today was charming, yet scarcely fitting for an Upper East Side affair. I'm willing to provide $2,000 for a more adequate ensemble. View it as a stake in Sarah's joy. For an instant, speech eluded me. The signal ahead shifted crimson, and I halted, my palms quaking with fury. Are you attending, Mr. Vernon? $2,000 ought to suffice for a respectable suit. Footwear, the full array. It might exceed your monthly earnings. You deem me a supplicant, I regard you as a dignified soul desiring the best for his child. At times, that entails embracing aid from those more equipped to deliver it. The signal turned verdant. I accelerated sharply, the truck surging as my restraint shattered. Permit me to clarify utterly, young man, I'm no recipient of pity, nor do I require your funds. Now, listen. No. You listen. My tone escalated, resounding in the cab. I've toiled daily since age 18. I nurtured that child solo after her mother passed, managing without aid, least of all from some pampered heir who believes wealth elevates him above all. Quiet expanded between us. I could nearly sense Ethan's astonishment via the line. That child cherishes you for reasons escaping me, I pressed. My delivery firm now. Deeply, thus, I'll conduct myself civilly at your lavish ceremony, but never under any circumstance confuse my courtesy for frailty. You're erring gravely. Elder, you grasp not whom you confront, nor do you. I terminated the link and flung the device to the adjacent seat. My pulse thundered against my chest as I navigated the known streets of my early days. The estates and groomed yards of the Upper East Side yielded to humbler abodes with wire fences and plots bearing signs of habitation over design. The surge of vigor flowed through me like current. For the first time in ages, I sensed vitality unbound. Ethan had anticipated my capitulation, my eager acceptance of his coin and barbs. The astonishment in his timbre upon my defiance compensated for any ensuing letdown from Sarah. Yet would it ensue, Sarah adored Ethan, discerned qualities in him I evidently overlooked. Perhaps she pierced his hubris to an authentic core beneath. Or perchance she was ensnared by his affluence and prestige, lured by an existence beyond her dreams. My device vibrated with a message. I disregarded it, fixating on the path forward. Bronxville lay 15 minutes distant now, my district, my folk, my realm. A realm where a person's merit stemmed not from ledgers or fabric fineness. The device hummed anew. Then once more. At the subsequent crimson light, I peeked at the display. 3 alerts, from unfamiliar contacts. This concludes nothing. You'll rue this. Sarah will select me. I erased them unread and returned the device to the seat. Let him dispatch his petty warnings. Let him attempt to daunt me with his riches and ties. He'd just absorbed a lesson his costly schooling omitted. Certain individuals refused to yield when toppled. The truck growled along the shaded avenues of Bronxville, beyond unassuming dwellings where educators, technicians, and retirees like myself pursued serene, honorable existences. No marble expanses or luminous fixtures, merely earnest labor and earnest souls who prized both. I maneuvered into my drive, the garage portal groaning open like a homecoming salute. For 40 years, I'd returned to this abode, initially with my spouse, then with Sarah, now solitary. Yet it was mine, forged through perspiration and forbearance, not bequeathed ease. The ire that had invigorated during the exchange ebbed as I entered my drive. My hands quivered mildly as I silenced the motor and lingered in the customary hush of my garage. The rush subsided, yielding to a denser, more isolated weight. I strolled by the modest plot I cultivated personally: heirloom tomatoes, chilies, orderly roses. Nothing extravagant, but genuine effort. The dusk breeze wafted the aroma of misses, Hargrove's blooms from adjacent, a cue that ordinary rhythms persisted amid my upheaval. Within, I suspended my fine suit meticulously in the wardrobe and donned relaxed denim and a woolen top. The shift felt like doffing plating, reclaiming my essence after hours feigning adaptation to Ethan's sphere. My veranda had long served as my contemplation spot. The glider sighed beneath me as I settled with a cheroot, the ceremony as routine as inhalation. Ignite the taper, tend the flame, initial measured puff, unadorned delights no fortune could enhance. What on earth drew Sarah to such a pretender Ethan presumed wealth resolved all, that 2,000 could procure my self-respect like off-the-shelf garb? Yet Sarah was astute, schooled, thriving independently. How could she ignore his presumption the locale eased into its Saturday Vesper cadence? Mr. Patel irrigated his turf opposite while his wards pursued lightning bugs. The Johnsons lounged on their steps, sipping ale and murmuring softly. Authentic souls enacting authentic days, not enacting for some elite ledger. I pondered my late wife, Eleanor, and her approach to Ethan's slights. She possessed a talent for piercing artifice with soft wit, guiding the conceited to their folly sans lasting wounds. Sarah inherited her intellect, yet perhaps not her insight into temperament. The images indoors narrated our narrative more vividly than any estate. Sarah's initial strides in our cramped galley, her elementary farewell in a loaned frock Eleanor had adjusted fourfold, secondary science displays cluttering our board, university admissions that drew tears, affirming the forfeit's merit. Eleanor departed when Sarah was 16, mature enough for sorrow's grasp, yet youthful enough for unwavering counsel through mourning. Those seasons fused us in manners affluent clans with aids and academies might evade. We'd formed a unit, parent and offspring, versus life's trials until present. Vapor curled over the veranda as dusk deepened to gloaming. Ethan's menaces resounded in recall. Yet beneath his bravado, I detected unanticipated doubt. He'd foreseen my swift yielding, my humble plea for his benevolence. My resistance had rendered him nearly startled, akin to a tormentor finding his mark-possessed fangs. Sarah's felicity outweighed my vanity, but witnessing her favor Ethan's narrative over mine would echo losing her doubly, once to his realm of entitlement, then to his fabrications on her parents' nature. The lane lamps kindled as Bronxville hushed into nightfall. Young voices waned as households convened for suppers and screens. I'd partaken innumerable solitaries since Eleanor's passing. But this eve's quiet bore extra gravity. Tomorrow Sarah would ring or appear, endeavoring to mend what she'd likely term a mix-up. Ethan would have woven his tale, depicting himself as the tolerant casualty of my errant ire. She'd credit him, yearning to, as her prospects hinged on it. My cheroot dwindled to cinders as I observed the locale's known pulses. This constituted my sphere, unpretentious yet true, garnered via decades of toil and yielding. Ethan might deride it freely, but he'd never comprehend the fulfillment of erecting substance from void. The veranda glow cast elongated shades as I extinguished the cheroot and rose inward. Dawn would herald fresh trials, novel assays of my steadfastness. But this night, in my compact home's stillness, I retained recall of my essence and feats. Inside, the space felt barer than wont. Kin images beamed from surfaces, seizing instants of bliss now achingly remote. Sarah's youth chamber lingered precisely as she'd vacated for studies, a sanctum to aspirations I'd fostered to fruition. I recognized I'd convey to Sarah the call's verity. The query lingered, would she trust her parent or her betrothed when accounts clashed? Sunday dawned overcast and turbulent, mirroring my disposition post a restless slumber. I'd replayed the dialogue with Ethan thrice over, his disdain sharpening per reminiscence. Brew soured on my vacant galley as I perused the Gazette sightlessly. Sarah's auto entered my drive at 11, sooner than her typical Lord's Day calls. Via the pane, I observed her collect her satchel and secure the portals with brisk efficacy. Her visage bore the resolute cast from her adolescent phase when she'd resolved quandaries. "Good morning, Dad." She swept through my entry with contrived gaiety, pecking my cheek ere perching on the settee. Lovely morning, yes. I decanted her brew into the vessel she'd crafted in 8th grade ceramics, asymmetrical yet cherished. "Astonished to see you early, dear." "Well, I aimed to visit and resolve yesterday's mix-up." She aligned her hem with anxious digits. Ethan noted a possible misread post-supper. The cautious wording revealed all. Ethan had preemptively shaped his account, likely portraying himself as the forbearing prey to my misguided wrath. "What sort of misread did he portray?" Sarah's beam quavered faintly. "He indicated you appeared distressed in your call. Perhaps misconstrued something. You know how fellows can clash. All that vanity and crossed wires." I deposited my cup with intentional poise. "Sarah, heed precisely what transpired yesterday. Over the ensuing 12 minutes, I recounted Ethan's summons verbatim. His patronizing timbre, the relief house quip, the 2,000 inducement masked as support. I observed her shift from assured rejection to uneasy skepticism to guarded ire. Dad, that's utterly unlike what Ethan relayed. Her delivery held an edge of reproach, as though I fabricated. He claimed he tendered aid for ceremony costs, and you bristled. 2,000 for attire. Sarah owing to my soup kitchen vagrant look. Those were his verbatim utterances. She rose abruptly, striding to the overlook of my humble plot. Ethan would never utter such. He's not unkind. Then one of us deceives you. The declaration suspended between us like a dare. Sarah pivoted to confront me, her gaze glistening with restrained tears of vexation. Dad, you've shared scarce 3 hours with him. I've shared 10 months with Ethan. I know him. He's compassionate, bountiful, considerate. Perhaps you misheard his inflection remotely. No mishearing a fellow dubbing your parent a mendicant. Dear, he didn't dub you mendicant. He sought to aid. Her pitch ascended per phrase. Do you fathom ceremony expenses nowadays? Perhaps he proved pragmatic. I reclined in my lounger, scrutinizing my child's countenance, the protective crimson in her cheeks, her evasion of steady gaze, the quiver in her timbre, markers of one defending conviction amid siege. Sarah, when have I deceived you? Never. But, she faltered, enfolding herself. This varies. This concerns Ethan, our shared tomorrow. You can't grasp enamored with an extraordinary soul, forging a union. I wed your mother 2 decades and 2 years. I comprehend affection. That differed. You and mother hailed from aligned origins, aligned realms. Ethan and I span varied realms, and that's intricate. The notion varied realms echoed Ethan's disdain. How swiftly she'd embraced his lexicon, his method of tiering souls by merit. Precisely which realm is mine? Sarah's features twisted in swift remorse. I meant not thus. Dad, I merely implied Ethan's kin harbor defined hopes, defined norms for stately affairs. Norms I fail. No, that's not my words. But her denial rang hollow. Look, Perchance Ethan could word better, but his intent was sound. He desires your ease at the ceremony. I rose gradually, sensing each of my 68 turns. Ease via his largesse. It's not largesse when kin aids kin. I'm not his kin. Sarah, you are. And if he can't accord your parent elemental regard, what reveals of his true view of you? Her expression solidified with the obstinate set I'd witnessed myriad times in her youth. Ethan adores me. We're erecting a splendor together, and I'll permit none to raise it. Not even you. The utterance wounded deeper than Ethan's barbs, emanating from Sarah. It evoked disloyalty, beholding my child opt a stranger's deceit over our lifelong verity. Thus, you credit him. I credit the man I shall wed. Yes, she seized her satchel with curt, irate motions. I came hoping reconciliation, but you're set on Ethan's flaws, and you're set on his virtues despite evidence contrary. Sarah halted at the threshold, palm on the latch. I cherish you, Dad, but I cherish Ethan too. If you can't embrace that, perhaps skip the ceremony. The portal latched with a faint snap, resounding like judgment. I lingered in my abruptly still parlor, hearkening her motor ignite and recede afar. For the first in Sarah's 35 turns, we'd parted in wrath with irretrievable phrases, the midday blurred in rote tasks, dusting a pristine space, clipping unneeded boughs, sorting implements in the shelter thrice over. Ought to occupy my grasp while my thoughts grappled Sarah's declarations. By 9, weariness propelled me to my chamber, sanctuary in my realm's most secluded nook, the frames on my bureau now taunted. Sarah at 6, beaming gap-toothed post her inaugural molar. Sarah at 13, erect in her intermediate cap and garb. Sarah at 19, luminous in her secondary mantle and tassel, clasping me as rivulets traced our visages. Each seized an epoch when I was her champion, guardian, confidant. When had that altered? When had Ethan's 10-month pursuit effaced 35 turns of devotion and fidelity? I lifted my cherished frame. Sarah at 26, claiming her degree. She demanded I flank her for kin captures, proclaiming aloud none of her triumphs feasible sans her parents' backing. The elation in her timbre that day rendered every forfeit rewarding. I cherish you, Dad, but I cherish Ethan too. Her echo filled the still chamber, as if affection were finite, as if selecting Ethan entailed forsaking me. Eleanor had schooled Sarah finer. Affection amplified when divided. It waned not. The burden of perfidy weighted my breast like corporeal pang. Not Ethan's perfidy. I'd foreseen scant better from him. Sarah's lacerated profoundest for its inconceivability. She'd favored his deceit over my truth, his polished actuality over our communal chronicle. I replaced the degree frame and selected another. Sarah at 11, erect beside the yield patch we'd sown post Eleanor's loss. We'd craved the endeavor, something vital and burgeoning to tether us amid grief's shadows. She'd urged surplus chilies for neighbors, despite strains. Perhaps you misheard his inflection. Her delivery had rung with such assurance. Such surety her parent erred. Her betrothed proved right. When had my discernment grown so dubious in her sight? The nightstand glow diffused amber over epochs of recalls. Nativity fates in our wee yard. Yule dawns round our humble fur. Tranquil eves aiding lessons at the board. Plain junctures forging an indissoluble tie between sire and heir. Or so I deemed. Eleanor's trinket chest reposed on the bureau's edge, untouched these 17 turns, enfolded in wrap. Nestled the unassuming betrothal band I'd bartered 4 months' plant wages for. No gems, no aurum. Merely a plain pewter hoop with a petite facet that loomed vast to our youthful gazes. Sarah had treasured that band in youth, donning it for choice days when diminutive enough to suit, Someday I'll discover an ardor like you and Mother's, she'd vowed with 9-year-old resolve. Now she'd encountered Ethan. The abode creaked familiarly about me. Adjacent, the Andersons' set hummed via slender barriers. Opposite, Mr. Patel's entry glow stuttered with the wiring flaw he'd delayed mending quarters. Ordinary continuance while my cosmos crumbled. Dialogue by dialogue. I contemplated summoning Sarah, bridging the rift. But what terms could mend her faith in Ethan or revive her reliance on me? She'd resolved with crystalline surety. The gravest wasn't forfeiting the dispute on Ethan's nature. The gravest was grasping my child, the one I'd reared, adored, yielded for, genuinely deemed me prone to deceit on so vital a matter, that my envy or rigidity might spur me to calumniate her intended with contrived barbarities. Beyond my casement, Bronxville eased into Sunday gloaming. Youth summoned for libations and tales, guardians on verandas, recounting diurnal trifles and setbacks. Clans whole, ties unfractured. I restored the frames to the bureau, save one, Sarah's degree likeness, the ultimate when I'd sensed irrefutably vital in her existence. Morrow would import novel assays, fresh probes of our remnant bond. But this night, clasping that lone image, I resolved, Sarah might elect Ethan's account. She might credit his mendacities on my temper and his laundered self-portrait. But I'd not fade tacitly into her life's margin. Ethan Whitaker had ignited this strife with his presumption and 2,000 inducements. He'd misjudged a plant hand's vanity in a parent's ardor. Now he'd absorbed that certain strifes triumphed not via coin or ties. I positioned the degree frame on my nightstand for Dawn's inaugural view, a cue of my strife's aim and why yielding proved untenable. Monday lumbered under unresolved burdens. I devoted the day to my plot, mending a slack paling, ought to engage my grasp while my mind essayed Sunday's clash with Sarah. By dusk, I felt firmer, more akin to my core than in days. The chime sounded as I concluded a plain supper of remnant roast and spuds. Sarah's marker lit the display, and momentarily, optimism sparked in my breast. Perchance she'd pondered, reassessed Ethan's account. Mr. Vernon. Ethan's timbre sliced my hopes like a edge. We require another forthright exchange. The audacity in his pitch ground my dentition, commandeering Sarah's device as his domain, summoning in my sanctum as if entitled. What now? Ethan. I seek to rectify this regrettable affair ere it spirals. His delivery exuded the suave surety of one unchallenged. Sarah recounted your parley yesterday. Candidly, I'm let down. I laid my tine and aligned in my perch. Let down by what? By your rigid denial of actuality. Sarah's bliss constitutes my all, and your fanciful claims burden the woman I adore. Fanciful claims. I echoed the term leisurely, savoring its disdain. Is that your label for verity, Mr. Vernon? Allow utmost clarity. Should you persist disseminating these falsehoods on me, I'll ensure your absence from the ceremony. The menace dangled amid us like discharged haze, momentarily. Retort stunned me, then a rigid, chill firmness rooted in my breast. Absent since my enlistment era. Are you menacing me? Lad, I'm delineating your deed's repercussions. Sarah adores me. She relies on me, credits me. Should you compel her to elect twixt parent and intended, how deem you that concludes? My clasp on the device whitened my joints. You're overstepping. Am I? You're shaming Sarah with these fanciful yarns of relief houses and alms coin. She's commencing to suspect her own parent detached from reality. The schemed malice in his terms astounded. He menaced not solely me. He methodically eroded my tie with my child, transmuting my candor to proof of derangement. Heed closely. Ethan. My timbre descended to a octave unused in turns, bearing the weight of one who'd braved true perils and endured. You may toy with Sarah for her adoration, but should you wound her, shatter her essence with your presumption and sway, you'll rue it profoundly. For the inaugural since acquaintance, Ethan seemed disarmed. Are you menacing me? I'm delineating your deed's repercussions. I hurled his terms rearward with chill accuracy. Sarah's my heir. I reared her, shielded her, adored her amid solitude. That fusion vanishes not merely 'cause some indulged scion deems her possession. You're mired in bygones. Elder. Sarah claims a fresh existence now, superior with souls equipped to sustain her. Wealth spans not all, youth. At times a person's merit gauges by his conduct toward the defenseless, and at times merit gauges by worldly feats. Ethan's timbre firmed with restored assurance. Sarah discerns which of us proffers more. I ascended gradually, sensing my 68 turns mass and the vigor it bore. We'll observe. Yes, we shall. And when we do, I suspect you'll find Sarah elects wisely. She ever has. The link severed, abandoning me erect in my galley with the device droning like irked hornet. Yet rather than the prior clash's wrath, I sensed altered now. Lucidity, resolve, the serenity preceding resolute deed. Ethan erred doubly. Foremost, presuming menace would compel my retreat. Second, unveiling his surety in Sarah's sway. Such presumption bred carelessness, conviction in untouchability's myth. I placed the device steadily and resumed my repast. The roast savored finer than in fortnights. For the first since this turmoil's dawn, I sensed reclaimed, not prey to Ethan's mind skirmishes, but the one who'd reared Sarah Vernon resilient and autonomous. Morrow I'd address this ceremony affair aptly. Ethan craved games of guise and rank. Fine. But he'd recalled certain strifes demanded beyond guards. The degree frame on the ledge ensnared my galley's casement glow. Sarah's beam as vivid as ever. She'd aligned with Ethan presently, but the campaign endured afar. Time to reveal that smug financier a true man's mettle. Tuesday midday positioned me in the lot of Riverside Mall, eyeing the unassuming facades of local trade. I'd bypassed 4 urban gentlemen's outfitters en route, venues where Ethan likely sourced his garb, where clerks would appraise my truck and respond accordingly. This varied. O'Malley's menswear had catered middle-tier New York for 25 years, per the weathered marquee. Locales where instructors and foremen procured suits for heirs' nuptials, sans encumbrance. The chime tinkled as I crossed the sill, claiming notice of a silver-tressed fellow arraying cravats behind the bar. His regard swept my labor garb and calloused palms sans verdict. Pure vocational gauge. Good afternoon. How may I assist? I require a suit. Nuptial in July. Stately affair. I sustained my timbre steady. Pragmatic. Unshowy. He nodded as if I'd cleared in tacit assay. Nuptial garb marks our forte. What's your fiscal span? The candor startled. No evasion. No presumptions on means. 450. Perchance 550 if merited. We can align therein. This way. 20 minutes hence. I fronted a triple reflector in slate suit, reshaping my image to near stranger. The tailoring traced my frame sans strain. The legs draped ideally over my formal soles. The weave substantial, tangible, not the faux fillers of bargain bins. Fine selection. The clerk, tag denoting Jack, withdrew to gauge the drape. Timeless form. Endures seasons. You'll don this turns on. I pivoted faintly, surveying angles. The mirror's figure appeared stately, creditable, suited to refined assemblies. Not the plant hand Ethan perceived. Yet no masquerade. Merely me, attired aptly. Cost $450 for the suit, plus $50 for essentials tweaks. Needed when nuptials in July. Third Saturday. Jack inscribed on his slate. Ample span. Ready by Thursday. Grants the weekend for flawlessness check. As he drafted the tab, I mused Sarah's commencement. She'd beamed striding that platform, and I'd beamed as her parent. The bargain suit of that day sufficed then, ringed by kindred labor clans lauding offspring feats. But Ethan's domain heeded alternate edicts. Guise signified not for itself, but armament in rank warfare. He'd essayed to unarm me via his alms proposition, rendering me reliant on his bounty for elemental poise. Instead, I funded my course with earnings from true toil. The nuance might elude outsiders, but it signified all to me. Receipt Jack proffered the duplicate. I creased it meticulously and slipped it wallet adjacent to Sarah's degree frame. 500, surpassing my apparel outlay past 5 turns conjoined, yet meriting each cent for its emblem. As I returned to my truck bearing the garment sack, assurance swelled absent since turmoil's start. Ethan had essayed to belittle via assault on my guise. Rank, merit as Sarah's parent, but poise procured not, vended not. It sprang inward, from self-knowledge and principle adherence. The homeward traverse wove through youth's known quarters, beyond abodes of true folk, true days. No marble halls or luminous chandeliers, merely the muted content of deed well wrought, clans bound by ardor over coin. I garbed the suit fastidiously in my chamber wardrobe beside my Sabbath garb, and the azure coat for Sarah's life junctures. Come July, I'd stride that Upper East Side nuptial seeming I pertained, not by Ethan's sanction, but 'cause Sarah was my heir, and no sum altered that. Ethan deemed he'd triumphed this fray by alienating Sarah, prompting her to query my candor and acumen. But frays weren't campaigns not claimed by deepest coffers. They fell to the resolute. July hastened not swiftly enough. Ethan yearned my metal's proof. He'd gain it presently. Over ensuing fortnights, Ethan's assurance burgeoned like unchecked brambles. The motif surfaced starkly in our quarterly kin suppers, each more strained than prior, as he probed rudeness bounds. Mid-May ushered our initial post-suit clash at a posh chop house Ethan selected, upon my advent in the fresh slate suit. His brows arched faintly, startle veiled by recalibrated scheme. Sarah beamed at my refined look, prattling my handsomeness, while Ethan appraised me as a tactician reassessing foes' ranks. "You present well, Mr. Vernon," he voiced with feigned ease. "Sarah noted your vintage perspectives on contemporary rites. I trust our nuptial suits your traditional tastes. The stress on traditional layered meanings, all patronizing. But I merely nodded and praised Sarah's venue pick, evading the lure. Late May imported Mother's Day feast with Sarah's university mates and theirs. Ethan enacted for the broadened throng, obliquely citing his advanced study web and the stature of ceremony attendees. Each remark subtly recalled my misalignment in such fellowship, my tolerance over embrace. "I rely you'll comprehend," he voiced amid brew. "Timber ample for proximate boards to catch, finance allies, civic leaders, souls pivotal in New York fellowship." Sarah tittered nervously. "Ethan, Dad's graced ample stately rights. Recall my university right." Naturally. Ethan's beam held scalpel keenness, though I envision campus rights bear distinct auras from exclusive elite conclaves. I imbibed my brew and observed his craft, astonished at each barb's contrivance. He voiced naught Sarah could irrefutably deem vicious, but the import rang plain. Her parent strayed from his tier, and all knew. Early June bore right scheming that evoked command drills. Ethan brandished graphs and timelines, supplier pacts and attendee tiers, all marshaled with firm efficacy, including my Sire of Air role, a tide he rendered titular over innate. "I've cited you at Board 8, he proclaimed in one exhaustive assembly. "Ideally placed, You'll command prime vista of the right sans centrality in captures. Sarah knit her brow. Ethan, shouldn't Dad feature in kin frames for formal portraits? Undoubtedly. I meant mere supper candids, those apt for journals or elite folios. We desire prudent display. The decode rang evident. I'd veil from public eye while affluent guests savored elite perches and frame slots. But I assented pleasantly, even deeming board 8 flawless. My poise perplexed Ethan, who'd foreseen sharper pushback. By mid-June, his presumption crested dizzily. In our ultimate prenuptial supper, he drew his device to exhibit Sarah frames from bygone Upper East Side nuptials, highlighting graceful guest garb and urbane airs. This marks our benchmark, he expounded, gliding via likenesses of frocked lords and couture-clad dames. All pivotal in New York elite shall scrutinize our rights conduct. Sarah eyed the frames with mounting unease. It appears profoundly stately. Stately, yet not rigid, Ethan soothed. Though I trust all grasp presentation's weight. We can't abide unease or misalignment. He glanced pointedly my way, and I nodded, seemingly comprehending. Inward. I marveled his utter unawareness. He'd grown so at ease in psychic sway, he'd ceased caution. Ceased feigning elemental courtesy. Flawless. The nuptial days off, and Ethan had unveiled his core utterly. Not solely to me, but to any peering beyond his gloss. Sarah's strain burgeoned per assembly. Her mediation bids more frantic as sire fiancé friction defied disregard. Yet she clung to Ethan's account, trusted her parent the issue, her intended merely upholding norms. Ardor had veiled her from patent verities, as Ethan had schemed. Imminently that shifted. Imminently. I readied for July's yield, primed to unveil Ethan Whitaker and his Upper East Side coterie the caliber of soul they'd spurned. The suit in my wardrobe mere prelude. The true revelation dawned when Ethan unearthed certain strifes triumphed not through coin and ties. Sarah merited beyond a soul deeming ardor sway. Merit via statements over temper. Come third Saturday, she'd behold Ethan's hues bared for all. The tally commenced. Third Saturday dawned with flawless July radiance, the sort rendering New York gleam like a dispatch. I piloted my pickup through the Upper East Side, beyond estates swallowing Bronxville swaths, toward the Plaza Hotel, where Sarah's nuptial would bloom. The edifice's stone veneer ascended like privilege's bastion, brass gleaming in afternoon rays. Lavish autos queued Fifth Avenue, Rolls-Royces, Audis, Land Rovers, while liveried attendants directed with drilled grace. My seasoned truck evoked a bygone survivor amid such vehicular nobility. But I diverged from months prior. The fresh suit reshaped my cab's mirror reflection to one pertaining anywhere poise signified. The slate weave traced my frame with subdued command, the apt tailoring lending gravitas to my carriage. I'd merited this juncture via fortnights of tactical forbearance. The midday rite slated for 4. With guests converging in knots of costly weaves and burnished hide. Dames in couture shifts worth my pension's span tittered with honed allure, while lords in bespoke suits debated trends and liaisons. This Ethan's domain, all veneer and enactment, opulence flaunted like campaign honors. I advanced toward the entry with firm intent, neither rushed nor reluctant. The portal keeper's regard clocked my nearing with trade gauge, marking suit caliber if not its modest tag. Momentarily I mused, blending into the refined multitude, locating my allotted perch sans incident. Then Ethan emerged. He conjured from a colonnade by the entry, sighted to waylay my path. His nuptial garb impeccable, tuxedo vest, pinstriped legs, satin cravat likely outvaluing my full kit. But his cast mingled accustomed startle and scheming ire I'd mastered. Well now, he voiced, pitch ample for adjacent guests to catch. See what gusts bore hither. Fellow nuptial folk slowed, sensing theatrics brewing. Ethan timed meticulously, public for sway display, formal for my retort seeming amiss. Good afternoon, Ethan, I riposted levelly. Splendid day for nuptials. Indeed, his beam chilled like frost iron. Though I must note, despite evident toil on your guise, you persist misplaced. This right for creditable souls. The slight landed with lancet finesse. Cloaked in societal sheen, casual watchers might misread as misplaced care. But the dispatch unmistakable. I pertained not here, never would. And all should know. I garbed my utmost, I stated softly. For my daughter. Your daughter thrives sans you, nay, flourishes improved. Ethan signaled faintly, and twin guards neared from pillar posts. I deemed departure time. The keepers advanced with trade civility, yet patent aim, fine souls executing duty, heeding their patron's kin. One laid a solid yet deferent palm on my frame. Sir, we request you accompany. The elder keeper voiced apologetically. Ethan observed with scant-contained glee. His pinnacle triumph at last. By months of mind warfare culminated here. The overt shaming of Sarah's parent on her nuptial day, beheld by New York's elite. He'd claimed wholly, or so he mused. Then a known timbre rearward, hold. The delivery bore sway and bafflement evenly. Is that you, the self-same Ross Vernon? I pivoted leisurely, identifying the timbre pre-visage. 50 turns imploded swift as Nathan Whitaker neared via the throng. His stately garb unblemished, yet cast of burgeoning awe. Nathan, I voiced plainly, watching insight bloom in his gaze like dawn post-endless night. He paused 3 paces off, probing my countenance with miracle-confirming zeal. Time reshaped us both. His locks hoar now, my visage more furrowed. Yet some transcended decades, a soul's carriage, frames poise, gazes glint. The identical Ross Vernon who preserved my existence amid the barrage beyond Da Nang. March 20th, 1968. The keeper's palm slipped from my frame. Ethan's assured beam commenced to falter as he beheld his parents' emotive reply to a soul he'd bidden ousted from grounds. That was I affirmed, sensing 50 turns mute thanks abruptly filling our interspace. Nathan's gaze welled with tears he veiled not. Before New York's elite, this potent magnate unraveled like the 21-year-old captain I'd hauled from a flaming scout car half a century past. I've sought you, he breathed, then amplified. I've sought you 50 turns. The nuptial folk ringed us respectfully, intuiting profundity unfolding. Ethan froze at the fringe, visage cycling, bewilderment, incredulity, burgeoning dread as he grasped his lapses scale. Father, what's afoot? Ethan's delivery fractured faintly. This soul merely a plant hand. No import. Nathan wheeled on his heir with a cast I'd glimpsed once ere, when a fledgling officer unearthed his underling forsook casualties under barrage. No import. Nathan's timbre spanned the entry. This soul crawled via shellfire to extract me from inferno. He bore me to shelter as blasts rent all encircling. He preserved my life when self-preservation beckoned. The chronicles surged from him like breached reservoir. How the foes had waylaid our column. How his scout had absorbed a straight strike and ignited. How I'd spied him ensnared within and resolved the instant shaping our fates. I lay senseless, pinned by warped frame. Nathan pursued, timbre fracturing. Ross Vernon hazarded all to free me. The stores in that scout commenced detonating 45 seconds post my clearance. 45 seconds. Ethan's visage paled utterly. The nuptial guests regarded him with shock and revulsion blend. At last grasping the temperament shaming a battle savior at his heir's nuptial. "Sir," the keeper voiced lowly. "Shall we halt? Stand down," Nathan commanded, gaze fixed on his heir. "This soul, my guest, my venerated guest." Nathan advanced and clasped me with half-century's fierce thanks. Round us, New York's elite beheld rarity in their curated cosmos. True sentiment, true esteem, true valor. "I essayed post-war to locate you," Nathan voiced. "Yet clasping my frames, service logs incomplete, troops dispersed to gales, I engaged sleuths, scoured veteran guilds, ceased not seeking. I craved no gratitude. I riposted, sincere. We were enlistees, we guarded kin, but I craved to tender it." Nathan pivoted to his heir, timbre dipping to absolute sway's octave. "Richard, what precisely have you wrought this soul?" Ethan faltered of mix-ups and rank variances, but his parents' caste chilled him. The nuptial folk sustained stunned hush as verity bared ere them. "This soul," Nathan proclaimed to the ring, "timber-wielding lifetime's trade and lead sway, is why I endure, why my air breathes, why this nuptial transpires." The twist eluded none. Ethan had essayed to shame the soul birthing his existence, summoned keepers to eject the valor enabling his ease. Nathan daubed tears and confronted his heir with letdown and burgeoning wrath blend. "Richard, I deem you and I require grave discourse on esteem. Thanks. Harrington essence." Ethan's frantic pleas commenced swift, each term oozing a soul's panic beholding his cosmos crumble live. "Mr. Vernon, my deepest regrets. Pray, enter. You merit headboard. You merit acclaim." But I uplifted palm, halting his frenzied redress. The nuptial folk observed rapt as their known order inverted holy ere eyes. "Nay, youth," I voiced with subdued poise, "this your nuptial, your revel, manage as suits." Nathan neared, grasping instant. "Ross, join me for libation someplace cozier we span 50 turns to recount." "That rings ideal." I confronted Ethan final, beholding him stark, not commanding soul earning awe, but fearful lad schooled merit's variance from wealth. "Guard Sarah, render her joyous." That's sole import. The stroll to Finnegan's Tavern spanned 4 blocks from Plaza's stone and gleam into weathered plank and candid parley domain. The shift evoked museum to hearth, tangible over enacted, sincere over contrived. We ensconced in a nook stall with ales costing Plaza's starter's fraction. Nathan eased his stately knot. I'd shed my coat. Twin old enlistees reclaiming ease post-divergent trails. "So you pursued plant labor," Nathan voiced. "True intrigue and timbre. 40 turns," Ethan noted. "Solid, true toil. Reared my heir, claimed my abode, enacted my days. I sipped ale and beamed. No grievances. And I embodied paternal hopes. Trader, rank ascender, all apt guild's member." Nathan's cast deepened contemplative. "Yet I forgot not that Da Nang day. Forgot not the soul preserving my life as shells rained a kin deluge." We parleyed 3 hours, swapping spousal and heir yarns, triumphs and bereavements. Nathan discoursed, erecting his paternal finance realm grander, rank and lineage strains. I recounted Eleanor's departure, solo rearing Sarah, plain toil's contents and modest feats. I coveted your lot at whiles. Nathan conceded as midday rays slanted tavern casements, perusing plant hands and guilds, their unity sense. You wrought substance, kinship, true bonds, and you wrought awe. I riposted, triumph, safeguard, kin chance. But at what toll Nathan's timbre bore rue? Behold my heir, all ease, scant temper. He nigh raised the nuptial of the heir to the soul, preserving his paternal life. What speaks that of my rearing? Beyond, New York thrummed weekend vigor. Within, twin souls shared humanity's nadir and zenith, grateful reunion and lens it lent. Ethan's youthful, I voiced eventually. Youth, query learn they. Sarah seems exceptional dame, resilient, sage, unbound. She draws from her parent. I mused Sarah at Plaza, likely pondering her parent and intended's kin vanishing conjoined. She'd unearthed verity eventually. Ethan's cruelty and my patient bear, the service link reshaping all. She'll thrive, I voiced assured. Sarah's sage to discern Ethan's core. Now with your vigilance too. Nathan uplifted beaker in salute to fresh starts, aged ties, survival's sagacity from own we imbibed thereto. Twin veterans rediscovering post-half-century. The midday sun dipped lower via tavern panes, gilding all in hallowing rays. Beyond, Ethan's ornate nuptial endured sans us. Within Finnegan's, worthier transpired. Sincere union twixt souls grasping purchasable variants from life's true yield. Certain strifes merited combat. Certain claims merited weight. And at times equity arrived punctual, donning an aged comrade's visage who'd clung to honor's debt as the golden light faded into evening. Ross and Nathan lingered in that simple pub, their laughter echoing softly over shared regrets and quiet triumphs. In the end, true worth isn't forged in marble halls or golden ledgers, but in the unbreakable bonds of honor and heart. Sarah's wedding day had transformed from a stage of cruelty into a revelation of grace, reminding us all that justice, like an old friend's voice, arrives not with fanfare, but with profound, healing truth. What touched you most in this tale of redemption and resilience? Share your impressions in the comments below. Have a question about family ties or unexpected twists? Drop it here, and let's exchange thoughts together. Your voice keeps this channel alive, so interact, subscribe, and join the conversation. To hear the next captivating story, click the box on the left. Thank you for listening.